in this session, we'll be focusing on the use of AI in developing teaching and assessment. So our first talk is going to be delivered by Graham Smith and Rachel Dunk from Manchester Metropolitan University. Graham is a senior lecturer in GIS. Through his previous experience leading the postgrad distant learning programme at Manchester Met, Graham's developed an interest in how digital technologies can support student learning, and he currently serves as the departmental lead for both Delta, which stands for Digitally Enhanced Learning, Teaching and Assessment, and AI in Education. Rachel is a principal lecturer and university lead for carbon literacy at Manchester Met, where she directs initiatives and builds strategic partnerships to advance climate education. She is also, as of this morning, a newly elected member of our CEDHE Executive Committee. So I'll hand over to Graham and Rachel, who are going to be talking to us about the approaches to AI that are taken at Manchester Metropolitan University. So over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much, first of all, for the opportunity to outline our approach here in terms of using AI in education here at Manchester Met, and also describe some of our experiences so far in using Gen AI in learning and teaching. So if you go on to the next slide, please, it's got the structure. So yeah, here's the basic outline for the rest of our presentation. First of all, I'm going to describe some of the work that's been done here at our university in terms of supporting Gen AI in education, both for students and staff members. And then I'm really going to focus on how we've started to use Gen AI in supporting various forms of assessment. And then Rachel's going to take us through an example of using Gen AI within the classroom. And then we're going to finish off by kind of highlighting, and I guess leading on from the previous presentation, some of the challenges that staff and students are facing now and are likely to continue facing. So I guess one of the key things and more significant changes that we've made here at Manchester Met over the last couple of years is we've adopted this new approach in embracing generative AI responsibly. So it's an ethos of which we've got several principles that it's based upon around using generative AI in education. First of all, it's this idea of being able to critically engage with, use and evaluate generative AI tools within learning. Also to educate our staff and students on how they can develop their own AI literacies and search for opportunities to incorporate AI within our teaching, learning and assessment practice. Obviously as well, we're very sort of keen to ensure that we have a clear set of guidelines in place and regulations, and these are things that are updated quite frequently in order to provide appropriate guidance for our students and indeed staff around the use and what's going to be considered inappropriate use of generative AI. And ideally, we're trying to kind of establish good practice in designing out opportunities for misconduct through the use of Gen AI within the educational setting. And that involves a lot of skills development. So the final part is really keen to help our students and staff ready themselves for a workplace in the future that's only going to involve more Gen AI. And how are we doing this? Well, we've got a number of sort of initiatives within the university, and probably one of the most significant is this RISE approach. So this is a series of activities primarily aimed at students, but also for staff members. And there's various activities available across the university. And there are a number that are focused on Gen AI. And specifically within that, we have what's called the AI Literacy Study Pack. And basically, this is really just a set of guidelines and advice for students about how they can best use Gen AI in supporting their learning. And also, because it's a RISE activity, it means they can gain points, and that can be part of their transcript. And indeed, as well as the study pack, there's a range of other Gen AI related activities. And importantly, staff can also get involved and use this as well. And as the previous sort of presentation mentioned about a particular type of Gen AI, as an institution, we've adopted the use of Microsoft Copilot. So this is the approved Gen AI tool for both staff and students. And so all they need to do is they need to log in with their university credentials. And then we have an effective sort of Gen AI environment for them to use that ensures data security, which is obviously one of the key things, along with others, that people want to sort of think about. So really, we're trying to kind of support our students in how they can best use Gen AI within their learning. And sort of following on from that then, how are we actually implementing it within the sort of structures within our university? Well, we have within our faculty, we have an education lead, a person who's responsible for a range of different educational activities and projects that are going on within our faculty. And then within that, there's a number of different projects, one of which was mentioned, Delta, a digitally enhanced learning and teaching. But there's also Gen AI in education group. And my role is I actually fall into both of these sort of small groupings, and I act as the departmental lead for natural sciences. But as you can see from that diagram, the structure is that every department has a Gen AI lead, and then they work together with other members of that grouping within the faculty. And really it's about helping to discuss developments, share good practice. I should also point out our faculty AI lead is actually an AI expert within computing science. And the rest of us are people who have interests, in some cases are also specialists in AI and the use of it. But we're kind of trying to share good practice and hopefully sort of showcase examples where we can use Gen AI for effective sort of teaching and learning situations. So really my role up till now as a departmental lead has very much been about advocating the use of Gen AI where it's appropriate and supporting our staff. And as part of this, I said there's kind of a significant kind of change. Well, what happened in 24-25 is the university actually made a specific change in terms of its guidance around academic misconduct. So it was now no longer an act of misconduct to use generative AI in an appropriate sort of setting. And so what we have now adopted is through this embracing responsible use is that our academic categories for assessment are either permitted use of Gen AI or not permitted use of Gen AI. Most sort of forms of assessment will fall into or will fall into the permitted example. In this case, it's just accepted that it's widely used. There's going to be a number of different examples of where people might want to make use of it. So what we're trying to do is outline how they should use it. Where there are instances where it's not permitted, that might be driven by PSRBs or other specific requirements. But most people will likely have their assignments fall into the permitted. And as part of that, all of our assignment briefs, we have quite specific assignment briefs for all our assessments in the university. There's now a guidance for use of AI section. And within our department, all of the academics involved in teaching geography and environmental science agreed that this following statement would be included in our assignment. And I apologise, I'm a geographer and GIS person, so that's why the example as shown on screen there. So we would state on every assignment, the use of generative AI is permitted in the assignment for the following purposes: helping you to understand key terms and concepts in whatever area specifically, in my case, GIS and remote sensing, that are relevant to the assignment, finding information from reliable sources, organising your notes. However, you must not use Gen AI to undertake any analysis required as part of the assessment. So the focus is on really thinking about how they can use Gen AI appropriately to support the development of their assessment, but not to actually undertake and complete the assessment. And then we give links to the rise in the AI literacy pack. And on that, I'll hand over to Rachel. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Graham. So this is a very small teaching moment on how I've used Gen AI in the classroom. And forgive my rather trite subtitle there on, it's a bit pat, turning challenges into opportunities. But that was very much what my experience has been as a complete AI novice. And this example very much falls into those first categories that we just saw in the framework. And it's been more about enabling me to adopt a transformative pedagogy that I wouldn't otherwise have been able to adopt in a particular module. So first of all, I'm just going to give a little bit of context. We had a new MSc in environmental sustainability start this year, and I'm sure everyone on the call appreciates the pressures with the first year rollout of a new program. The main subject matter focus of the master's program is it's built around addressing the dual nature climate crisis, and it represents areas of real research impact strength in our department. And it's the first module on this MSc, so it's our foundational module, and it's got a double weighting compared to all the other modules. And it's got a lot of heavy lifting to do as a result of that. So not only do we need to address the learning outcomes, the topic content learning outcomes, which is around understanding planetary boundaries, the sustainable development goals and concepts like donut economics and so on. But it's also got to do the hard work in fostering that sense of community and belonging amongst a diverse group of students who are coming from lots of different cultural and disciplinary backgrounds. It needs to do the really important academic and professional skills building, so ensuring that all of our students are critically engaging with the literature, that we're doing things like building their digital literacy, their competency in developing and giving presentations, team working, all those sorts of things. So the other thing that I wanted to do, to sort of help foster that sense of belonging to the department as a whole, was make sure the students were meeting key colleagues. So the first part of the unit focused on exploring the planetary boundaries, and I wanted to bring in lots of my wonderful colleagues to lead sessions on that. But everyone is time poor. And also, if you're bringing in multiple contributors, you can end up with a really bitty module that doesn't have a coherency or a clear sense of identity. And when people are time poor, if you ask them to fill in 3 hours, there's a real risk you're going to get 3 hours of stand-up lecture rather than ensuring that there is active learning embedded throughout the module. So in an attempt to address this, after our welcome to the program and the module and an introduction to the Anthropocene and the planetary boundaries, I wanted to go into a pattern where we had all of these are representing 3-hour blocks. The lighter green would be a colleague led, so a member of our department leading around 1.5 hours to 2 hours, focusing in on one of the planetary boundaries. And then I wanted to allocate the last hour of these sessions to student-led learning. So putting the students into seminar teams and giving them the responsibility to develop an interactive seminar or workshop that the whole class would engage in. However, to fit everything into the module, that meant that seminar team 1, when we did this, would essentially at the end of week 1 be told their team and their topic, and then at the end of week 2 they've got to deliver that seminar. So that's a bit too much of an ask, and it means it's very inequitable between seminar team 1 and seminar team 5 in terms of what we are asking them to do. And we also wanted to have clear framing around that so that we had some level of control on the level of criticality and which literature and so on the students were engaging in to make sure that it was appropriately focused. I'll also just highlight that this entire thing is sort of constructively aligned to their first assessment, but that's not the main focus of this. So for me, this is where the Gen AI gave me the opportunity to stick with that framework and to adopt that pedagogy without creating undue stress on the students. So this was the guidance that they were given. We selected 3 papers to form the basis of the seminar. They were tasked with working together to design, prepare, and lead the seminar, and we categorically pointed them towards Copilot to help them do that. We gave them very simple further guidance that we needed a PowerPoint presentation that summarized the assigned papers, but they should spend a maximum of 5 minutes doing that. The expectation would be everyone would read the papers in advance. And then a structured discussion or any other activity that critically explored key questions addressed or raised by the assigned papers. And then all of the teams were given the opportunity to have a 30-minute support meeting in advance of delivering their seminar to review their plans. And the use of Copilot here is relieving that anxiety, helping with the heavy lifting, removing that sort of, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because they can generate those ideas very quickly. And indeed, it was a huge success. The students loved it. They got a lot out of it. When it was student-led seminars and activities, the whole class was really supportive and very positively engaged. They did a great job of incorporating active learning, going from quizzes to reverse quizzes, you know, giving the answers, what's the questions, sort of more sort of active exercises. So one of the examples on screen here is looking at the land system change planetary boundary, where we focused it on agri-food consumption. And so they got everyone to work through the foods that they consume on a regular basis and then look up and work out what the impact of that was in terms of land take. Structured discussions did feature very well as well. But overall, the take home from me was very much this was hugely successful. It delivered on the team building, on building that sense of community amongst the students, and definitely something we will be keeping for next year.